and joined by my lovely and beautiful sister Ruth that I haven't seen in a while. Good to see you, Sis Ruth. She's going to be sharing with us, and she's actually the last country that we are visiting. So, really, what an incredible way to end the day before we wrap up. So, Ruth, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tato. Hi, everyone. I'm going to start my presentation now with a video from my beautiful country, Suriname. It's a short video. If it works, yes.
Suriname, a colorful experience.
Sorry, let me introduce myself quickly. My name is Ruth Sinkeler, and I live in Suriname. I was born here. When I was young, I moved to the Netherlands, and after 32 years in the Netherlands, I moved back to Suriname in 2015. I'm the Female Wave of Change Ambassador for the Caribbean, because even though Suriname is on the northern coast of the South American continent, we are part of the Caribbean. We are a bit of a strange country on the South American continent. I've been a serial entrepreneur since 1997. I do leadership training, communication training, management training, entrepreneurial training, etc., etc. And I'm also the author of the book Sexy Leadership. I'm an advocate of diversity, equality, and inclusiveness. That's a little bit about me. Today, I am the last speaker of the whole conference, and unfortunately, I couldn't join a lot of the conference today because I have a really big project going on, but I am happy to be here and close off your day, hopefully with some positive information about the women here in Suriname. As I said, I lived in the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands, a big survey was done by Women Inc. Women Inc. is an organization in the Netherlands who obviously works with women, and they, Women Inc. have been researching the wage gap between men and women in the Netherlands. And years ago, I read about that research, and it turns out that in the Netherlands, there's a 14% wage gap between women and men of equal education and equal work experience. So now that I am living and working in Suriname, and I primarily work with women, I was curious about the situation of women here, the financial situation of women here, and if there was a wage gap between women and men in Suriname. So we did a pilot survey. We got 295 respondents, of which 231 women, 64 men, and mostly were master's and bachelor respondents. I am so sorry, but my neighbor is working on his house. I cannot do anything about it, so I hope you can hear me. And most of the respondents were employees of government, semi-government, corporate, and also entrepreneurs. So what we found, the summary of the 295 respondents, that significantly more women than men with academic titles filled in the survey. And in the bachelor titles, there were more men who have answered the survey. And the biggest group of working women who answered the survey amongst the 295 are between age 25 and 45. And with the men, we had different age groups who had a lot of men answering the questions of the survey. So what we also found is that a lot of more women are in employment from that group. So they are employees of companies or in the government or semi-government, what we have here. More men under the respondents were entrepreneurs, and more men were in leadership positions, yet more women in the intellectual, scientific, and artistic jobs. So teachers, trainers, they had more women in the survey. So when we asked about, are you negotiating your salary or your fees? You can see that 40% of the men, yes, and 60% of the men, they don't negotiate the salaries. And a lot of more women do not negotiate about their salaries or their fees. We found that we wanted to ask this question because we wanted to know if there is a wage gap, what is the reason of that? And this is one of the things that women don't do well enough yet. They do not negotiate here in Suriname. They just, what the salary that is offered, they accept that salary, or the fee that is discussed by the company that they want to work for. That they take that and they do not negotiate, not well enough. And if you ask them if they are satisfied with what they earn for their work, if according to their experience in the education, you can see by the numbers, by the percentage, that men and women, they are not satisfied with what they earn. But if you go back to the formal sheet, it's not only that the companies maybe don't want to pay more, but they are not negotiating their fees and their salaries. So since I am a leadership trainer, for me, this is very interesting on how can I develop trainings, or how can I support the people in becoming more confident to start negotiating and start earning more from there. But then also other interesting things were in the survey. If we look at the jobs in the government, we found that in governmental jobs and in corporate environment, the men dominated the highest wage groups. But if you look at, and we call it here the semi-government, those are companies who are working a lot with the government, yet they have like a bit of a commercial character also. So they are like in between, not corporate fully, but also not government. So we call that semi-government here. And in those companies, the highest wage groups are dominated by the women. I have worked as a trainer in a lot of those companies, and the boards there and the directors, the women do dominate. So that was a positive find that we found also with our survey, that in the semi-governmental companies, the highest wage groups are dominated by women. We were very happy to find that. And also, even though in our survey, under the 295 respondents, we had more male entrepreneurs answering the survey questions, yet the women who are entrepreneurs and who answered the survey, the women dominated with the highest turnovers. So the women entrepreneurs make more money than the men. I was really surprised by that, positively surprised. And yeah, but that's what we found in this small group of respondents. And overall, if we look at the highest income groups, the women of Suriname are dominating. And that is not, that was surprising for me. And on the other hand, it shouldn't have been such a surprise, because if you look at the universities here, the women are also dominating. I don't know how it is in other countries. I do know that in the Netherlands also more women than men are attending the university. But here in Suriname, there is significant difference between the amount of men and the amount of women in our universities and with higher education. The women dominate there. So I didn't upfront, I was hoping, but I didn't think that the women would dominate in the highest income groups. So this is a very, this is a small respondent group, of course, but the first, conclusions may be that the women of Suriname are not doing all that bad in earning their wages. The women of Suriname also mostly work full-time and more than full-time. We do not have part-time jobs here that much. So they either don't work or they work full-time or more than full-time. The women here are very entrepreneurial and very career-minded. So that is the conclusion. If we look at the last 20 to 30 years of the development of women in Suriname, we have come far and we are still rising because of the fact that more women are completing their master's studies and even going for their PhDs. We are dominant there as women in absolute numbers. So, but as you also could see, they are not personally satisfied with what they make right now, but we are not doing all that bad. So I think from a leadership trainers point of view, we as women of Suriname, the phone, sorry, I'm almost done. We as women of Suriname are not doing all that bad, but we have to start training and working on our leadership to improve our negotiation skills, to know what we are worth, to get even more salary or fees for the work that we do. As I said, this was a small pilot survey and it was mainly answered by people with a higher educational level. They don't represent, of course, the whole country, yet we can carefully conclude that the women of Suriname are on a financial rise, which makes me proud and positive for the future. Because you know the saying, if you educate a woman, you educate a whole community. So if women rise financially and work on their financial independence, I know that they will influence the future generations of Suriname. And that's, what I am aiming for, to make our country even better country to live in than it is today. So that was my short contribution for today at this global conference. Congratulations to the organization. Tato, thank you. Over to you.